So my name is Lawrence Osborne, and I've known this guy for many, many, many years, and I've stayed at their house many, many times. Actually, and I have a dog which I bought, inspired by your dog. So we have an emotional umbilical cord of canine nature. And anyway, I'm a little bit incoherent because I just arrived last night at 4 o'clock in the morning. So forgive me if I'm a little bit incoherent. But anyway, I've known Konstantin a long time, and when I first met him, I was very struck at the very sort of satirical, figurative nature of the art that he was doing, because it's so unusual in the context of the contemporary art world. And I think this manifesto, which you'll get to read, will explain to you why it's unusual, because the gesture of his painting is very unusual in what the art market tends to value, what it pays money for. And in this book, I haven't read all of it, but I did read it, most of it this morning in a daze. But I think you explain in a very coherent, very lucid way why that is, why we've arrived at the point that we've arrived at in our culture. Because I think we're in a very strange and critical moment in our culture. My relationship to the art world is not very deep, but I did live in New York for 22 years. In the 90s and the late 2000s, when the art world was the very center of the city, and it was the center of the city's identity. And at the center of the city's identity as the center of the world, it thought of itself as the center of the world. And it's the Andy Warhol, it's the kind of art world that gave it that conceit. And now that's cover has been blown. I think that doesn't really exist anymore. But we got to that point. So I was living in New York, I was always mystified by the art world because I didn't really think much of it, really. I would go to endless openings and galleries and exhibitions, and I would never know quite what I was looking at. There was a sort of feeling of fraudulence about the whole thing. And I reading this afternoon, I was thinking, yeah, now I know why. Now I know why it seems fraudulent. There are actual reasons for this, that the development of art, and I'll be very brief here, just what you say in the book, but Konstantin argues that our idea of art is really began with the French Revolution, when you have this sort of momentous change in the 19th century with the rise of non-institutionalized, non-elite, non-patronage art that was very technically competent and very accomplished and very difficult to master. And as a result of the revolution, as it percolated through the 19th century, you have the rise of what he calls the dilettante. Actually, he calls it the cash-poor dilettante, but I'm not sure if that includes us. But anyway, the idea of the dilettante who overturns the previous order. And so you get all these movements. One movement destroys the movement before, and so on and so on. And we have these endless sort of iconoclasms that go against the existing order. But what it's resulted in is, imagination without accomplishment, or imagination without skill, as you call it, i.e. modern art. You also say something, I hope I'm summarizing your argument.
Spectacular.
Yeah, so anyway, I'll let you, at that point, since I've given you a sketch of what the book is in, I think it's up to you to elaborate. Start with the French Revolution.
No, you started it well. No, I don't want to explain all the book. The idea came, it was like accumulated from decades of my professional life, because there were lots of questions asked by students, artists, and collectors, and whatever galleries and museum directors and so on. And as we're realizing that now we live in an art mess, complete mess. So just imagine taking Macau in account with like art bureaucracy number exceeds 1,000 people working just for art, receiving salaries, and real artists on the street, on the ground, just dozen. So it's not only Macau. Macau. It's more transparent. Hong Kong is the same thing. New York is the same thing. So collectors that don't know what is what. Everyone, explained everything from his own point of view with his its own interests, like be it national, cultural, or monetary. So in this case, I tried to kind of collect them all together, all these sketches that I produced during the last more than 10 years. And with a very good editor, and help from starting from Max, editor from New York, Dan Cadison, help of designer Henry Steiner. He's in front of you. So yeah, thank you, Henry. And I think we produced something very nice. I kind of like the way at the beginning we were like, can you imagine like it's as a manual? So for example, you are first time visitor to art fair. How to navigate there? You don't know anything. So you can actually put it in a pocket. There are questions. You can start anywhere, like from the middle. Like what, for example, I opened number 24, visual illiteracy and cultural ignorance. So, oh my God! So you can already start to kind of to dive in to answers. So you don't need to have questions for these answers. In some way, we decided to put the poster. The poster you have it here, like it's an art pyramid that the artwork we have now. Artist at the bottom, of course. Then the collector. You cannot believe like collector is actually treated like cheated all the time and so on. There is a big layer of middlemen in art world, and in some ways it's so confusing and like lack of energy, and you just see it from the bottom of the pyramid. To survive, artists need studio. A studio is luxury. Space is luxury now. So for artists to have big space, he has to escape from east, you mentioned New York, east side to the west side, emptied during Second World War factories. So if you manage to live, to get this studio, so you have space to work. So one of the first person to move during Second World War to west side of New York was de Kooning, who recently passed. So he was the founder of the concept of the loft. Loft didn't exist before him. A few weeks ago, I visited a studio of the Jackson Pollock in Long Island. It's unbelievable. It's just a barn with the it's actually kind of miserable structure. Of course, the floor there is the Jackson Pollock floor. So we had to wear like special socks to step on it and so on. But the story of this house and the barn, it's just Peggy Guggenheim decided to pay for this house, to borrow him money in exchange of exhibition. So the artist cannot even handle the things. And even later on, Rauschenberg said that most of the artists, New York artists, in 70s, 80s, 60s, 70s, 80s, they actually managed to survive and become rich, not because of the selling art, but because they managed to buy property, factories. So in many ways, this kind of survival instinct, or kind of the society pushing you all around, it's like make artists stronger. But at the same time, on another side, I wanted to emphasize to the collector to understand more artist, how he works, understand history of art, how it's manipulated, because you have to understand that history of the world created by victors. It's a famous phrase of Churchill. But history of art created by people who pay money. Like, let's say, last year, for example, Art Basel, Hong Kong. You have people around walking and like, oh, I don't like Basel this time. Oh, it did not beautiful, I didn't know artists and so on. But you see, the problem is that 99.9% people opinion is irrelevant. because one guy comes and he buys the shittiest painting, this 99% thing that it is. So, and this painting he put in his collection in Los Angeles, and then he donated to museum, and then art historian put it in the history books, and suddenly this is a great artist. You understand it? So the person who bought, he make decision. So here I was trying to explain that actually this decision in art history could be made by anybody. You just have to know the kind of entrance ticket, like you come in, how to access the gallery, how to understand what is on the wall, how to understand, avoid this face control, because it's like luxury goods, considered to be luxury goods art. So, and all of the people living their lives with, how to use the word that is not that strong, not nice things in their house all their life, miserable things. So for example, each person deserves to have very nice work of art above his sofa or instead of TV. And it's not difficult. It's, there is always budget for anything. So in this case, I'm just kind of trying to open the door from another side. And of course, second book I'm working on now, it's more scholar. It's like for artists to survive. So there will be a lot of advisors for younger artists, established artists, medium career artists, and so on. From my side, also, this is humor. I use humor, sarcasm in it, so you can doubt anytime. So you can just say that it's nonsense, and so no problem. I accept it. And also, I was laughing at myself here, and so on. So anyway, I don't want to spoil your reading experience, and also we are planning to do some kind of video lectures, also with some humor and so on. So where I'll probably try to answer the questions that raised now. I started to receive questions on can you explain more this and this, because the book is actually quite small, and the editor in New York was a butcher, so he was cutting, this is too much. Don't put names of the Giuliani, for example, or Trump in it. So he was cutting me off all the time. So at the end, I think we cut like half of the book. But it's kind of, the idea was it should be easy to read, easy to handle, and well illustrated, and if nobody likes it, cheap and easy to draw.
But you say in the book that, I mean, this book is actually a manifesto. It's not just a how-to manual. And you say somewhere in the book that all manifestos are based on hate. So in a way, I think you should tell us what you hate, and because it's the key to why you wrote the manifesto. I mean, I think we hate the same things. So
yeah.
Go ahead.
Very nice question. Very nice question. Okay, because it's not it's not in the book. It's just outside. You see, there is a perfect pitch concept of perfect pitch. So, for example, my wife, she has a perfect pitch, musical. She's a pianist, classical pianist. Galia, you're there. So every time I go to the concert with her, just believe me, we in Berliner Philharmoniker. I've conductor, whatever, I forgot name. But anyway, it's perfect, Mahler or whatever. And she's sitting to me, kind of spectacular. And she's sitting, no, the violin is late. The conductor is lazy, and he already gave up on this idiot at the piano because he's too fast. And I think he's drunk. So she says a lot of, and I felt when she has this kind of wrong sounds, how physically she was hurt. So you see, I'm ignorant in it. Like, I'm very bad with my ears. But trust me, I have a good eye. And every time I come to interior, a private house, whatever club, whatever office, and so on, I feel physical pain in my eye, like needles inserting to me. Oh my God, it's so ugly. So you could read on artist works. I can read on artist works, but I think this book is also help. It will help you. Why he was doing it? No, I'm not talking about this art, but you know, a lot of things done for money. And I was just saying that artists should exclude the mammon, it's a god of money, out of his creative process. So in many cases, you could feel like he's daltonic, he doesn't see color. His tonal, it's so horrible. Okay, he tries to paint, he paints like realistic art, but he doesn't know anatomy. He paints from a projected image where he doesn't understand anything how it works. So his fingers looks like sausages, and but and then you see the reaction of the people around. They walk around with so beautiful. You see how beautiful eyes, the reflection in the eyes. My God, look at his cheeks, look at his nose. One cheek is out here. Even your eyes, it's like 10 cm out of the face. So the problem of the people, they don't know how to see as well. So no, I'm trying to, here I cannot teach you how to see, but at least to open and give a push, like be careful, like don't buy nonsense, don't support nonsense, and so on.
But what you hate, from reading this, yeah, well, but then there are two questions then. Why does this patronage system, why is it different from the patronage system that the popes had with Michelangelo in the 16th century, where you still had the same money system, you had the money pyramid, and you had patrons who wanted to cover the vast walls of their vast palaces with vast paintings with mythological themes and whatnot. Right, but it's the same system in a way, isn't it? I mean, is it any different from multimillionaires in New York just wanting to cover their much smaller spaces inside their palatial mansions? But there's also something else, which is in terms of what you hate, which is I get the feeling you regret this sort of degradation of technical skill. That there was that when you, and I think this is something that Salvador Dali used to say a lot, that Salvador Dali used to love 19th century academic painters, whereas all the kind of modernists despised them. And Dali would say, no, these are dilettantes, they don't know what they're doing. Like the classically trained painters who you despise actually could draw, they actually understood perspective, they knew human anatomy, all these things. Seems to me you're in the Dali camp, that basically you can spot when painters can't do those things. Because when they can't do those things, you get what you call the cash poor dilettante. It's like basically the idea that anybody can do anything. And now we have people selling their child's nursery art for hundreds of thousands of dollars. We've reached this point of absurdity where no one can tell the difference.
Yeah, no, like, I come from another angle. Landmark in the history of Western art is Florence, 17th century Florence. We all know it. It was the richest place in Europe then. China was actually the richest place in the world then, but in Europe, not per capita maybe, yeah. But anyway, the florin, the coin, was the strongest coin in Europe. They had this textile manufacturing and so on. But they had these gangsters turn bankers and Medicis and other few families with population of 65,000 people. 65,000 people, can you imagine? There was Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, Raphael, and writers, Dante, and so on, including philosophers, Machiavellis, and so on. Just can you imagine, 65,000 people. It's 10 times less than Macau. Macau now is the richest place on earth per capita. The concentration of money and potential is just overwhelming. So what they can do already starting 20 years ago, make the biggest museum of Chinese art. and so on. You know, international art, whatever, sponsor, become hub of, like, for example, for festivals and movies and so on. So it could be Cannes of Asia and so on. So what I'm just saying, that there are things that that differ us from rich people now, and decision makers now and decision makers then. If you see, if you analyze, like Medici, I mean, it's a gangster family, yeah, but he was a banker. So he spoke 6 languages. Banker, 6 languages. His passion was, apart from art, supporting artists and so on, opening the school for younger artists, including Michelangelo, young Michelangelo, where he studied, sitting next to philosophers at lunch and breakfast, Greek philosophers. So his passion was collecting and translating Greek works, collecting manuscripts and translating. So he had on payroll 2 full-time paid translators. Find me banker like this now. I mean, no, I'm not criticizing by profession. I'm just saying that there was a passion of doing something else. So leaving after yourself something that is like not just stinky and smelly, but beautiful, and so that's probably
Well,
part I hate in our society now.
Yeah, but also you have to remember with the Medicis, who became very rich on the use of Fibonacci equations in the Italian banking system. So they were the richest banks in the world.
Absolutely.
But also you have to remember they were religiously very devout. So religion played an enormous part, not just enormous, it was everything. Everything in that world was religious. You can walk through the center of Florence now. Everything is religious. Every piece of art is religious.
No,
every
image
is religious. You go into the Baptistery opposite the Duomo, you look up and it's 10th century mosaics. It's the biblical stories. That's what has changed, perhaps, that the bankers don't have that instinct anymore. Nobody does, really. We live in a secular society.
I'm not criticizing bankers and so on.
Yeah.
But there is.
But is that a question, though? The decline of religion is actually part of this.
Part of it, yeah, absolutely. But you see, there was a decline in religion in New York, but there was a situation when the robber barons, Carnegies and the Altmans and so on,
who were also quite religious, though.
But at the end of their life, they were kind of converted into the charity. Okay, let me do Carnegie Hall, Music Hall. Let me do Frick Collection Museum.
But you know what made them religion was that their children would often die very young. And it made them very somber, reflectively religious people.
Don't suggest anything.
But you have a quote from Octavio Paz in the book where you say religion is, the art is the surrogate religion because it's dancing over the void, or something like that. So, Octavio Paz is the great Mexican philosopher of the 1950s, and he quotes it many times. So Paz was writing about Mexico and the decline of Catholicism in Mexico. But it is the same idea that nothing really does replace religion, because once you get rid of it completely, your whole belief system changes.
Yeah, and you look at some other religion. You believe in it to something else.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, you can walk through the Louvre and you can see in Paris, and every single thing you see in that from 4,000 years is religious until you get to about 1950. And then suddenly it's like not religious anymore. And you have this sort of feeling of emptiness about the whole thing.
What I'm just saying also in this book, it's a cultural footprint. So we're passing our lives. And there is a chance to leave something better than just ashes and stinky something. Yeah, so in many cases, if you have a chance, even, to help some beautiful corner of Macau, for example, a corner of Hong Kong, leave something, helpful. So it's actually the introduction to it. So I'm trying to be positive in many ways. If there is no religion,
it's positive, but it's a manifesto. So, but it's not a manifesto based on hate, right?
Yeah, I wrote.
But it's also things you love, presumably as well, because it's very rare to have a manifesto that says what it loves.
Actually, the idea was to call it the Art Collector's Manual.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but on Manifesto it was advice of our friend, and so actually Manifesto sounds better.
it's easy to destroy things. It's very difficult to defend. It's very difficult to defend anything. You could say this about cultures as well. It's very easy to destroy them. Very difficult to defend them. Any idiot can destroy or criticize. Doesn't mean anything. What do you defend? That's what you ask people. People very rarely can answer that. You know, what do you actually defend with your life or the way you spend your life? More than
Yeah, brilliant.
the way you spend your life for us. We don't
No.
want to die yet.
No, and you mentioned Octavia Paz. I like his concept of a cycle of progress in art and culture. So he starts with art, anti-art, that based on critique of art and mimicking art, the previously created, and then non-art. So we're sort of moving from anti-art to non-art. So from dancing on ashes of previous creators, now coming that in situation that anyone is an artist and anyone is art. So
and of course, you mentioned the example of André Breton, the surrealist.
I think Breton.
So André Breton famously said the most surrealist thing you can do is to go out into the street with a loaded gun and shoot everybody at random. And this was like the ultimate artistic act. But Salvador Dali, since I mentioned Salvador Dali, once said to André Breton, stop trying so hard to be contemporary. Unfortunately for you, that's the one thing you will always be, whether you like it or not.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Salvador Dali sold his soul. Just
he became a sort of okay. That's another,
the end
it's
of
another
his
story.
life.
It's another
No,
story.
but really, I rediscovered him quite some
But
time
you know,
ago.
he could not have painted those visions without having academic training. It's just
Absolutely.
not possible. I mean, they're technically brilliant.
No,
And-
I love him.
And I would say, you know, send
No,
it up.
it's easy. No compliments today.
Yeah.
No, but the thing is, it was very famous. The ping pong, conversation between Picasso's and Salvador Dali, where
Picasso also classically very clever and very well.
Exactly.
I mean, his early paintings are amazing. in
yeah,
that
but
way.
Picasso found one thing, and he found how to paint fast without employing people. So he produced, and that was the point of Salvador Dali. So he has to spend like 1 month painting one painting, and he was addressing to Picasso, 4 paintings a day. So
Yeah.
it's
Also, the colonial looting thing. I mean, he's sort of like Picasso.
you mentioned it.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
mentioned
the
it,
whole
yeah.
African art thing. I mean, Dali was like, no, this is nonsense. It doesn't mean
Yeah,
anything.
because when you inspired completely in looted goods from colonies and you transform it to something else using your own instrument without actually care about what was that meaning behind and so on. Of course, we influenced. People are influenced by something. You could be influenced by African art. You could be influenced by, but if you see Malangatana, our friend before, he passed away. He was a very good artist. Malangatana from Mozambique. He actually paint like Picasso. Not Picasso because he follows Picasso. It's because he's African. He sees this way. So stealing the whole idea of how to paint in style, it's called manierism. So in history of art, paint in style of somebody, it's called manierism. And manierists were very much criticized when during the late Renaissance. Somehow nobody mentioned manierism
Mannerism.
addressing to
Caravaggio.
modernists. Yeah, like Caravaggio, manierism. You can't insult him like this. Caravaggio is a very good artist. So, but nobody called manierist, for example, but somebody who trying to pretend that he's like Australian artist.
So where does all this leave us? I mean, those of us who, in our humble way, produce things. I mean, there's a feeling of unease about the whole thing. You have this thing here about the artist as the bottom of the heap. I mean, and I think this is very true. I'm a writer, but it's the same thing. You know, writers are right at the bottom.
No.
And I have
Filmmakers, everybody there.
Well, no, but filmmakers is a bit different. That's not true because I have a movie production company as well. We just started, and I know that in interactions with the film world, that you have the directors are still able to be the Michelangelos. They're still able to be these like egotistical assholes because nobody dares go against them, and they're total narcissists. all of them. I mean, it's just amazing to beat them and realize how horrible they actually are. And this is because the system, the production system, allows them to be like that. But the people who write the scripts or the novels, whatever, I mean, it's extraordinary how unimportant we are, I mean, I went to the gala performance in London of Ballad of a Small Player, the novel I wrote. And honestly, there was 2,000 people at the Royal Festival Hall. And I sat there watching this movie, and I was thinking, no one here knows who I am or cares less. And yet this is my world. And, we did a red carpet afterwards with all these photographers, and I could see the photographers had no idea who I was. They just smile, click, 1,000 cameras, and then none of them had any clue who I was. And it was like, turn left, turn right, fuck off. Excuse my English. So this is very true. It's a true reality now. Remember, when novelists and painters were actually important. But I think this is now past, and it's now we have a production system. At the top of the production system in terms of narrative is the TV show, the Hollywood movie or whatever, and at the bottom are the people who actually create the ideas. This is very disturbing, and I don't know how this can be changed now, and the reason is the amount of money that's involved. Now, I mean, Ballad of a Small Player was $50 million. We are now looking in my own company. We're looking at partnerships about properties where it's 100 million, 150 million. And you just think when you're dealing with $100 million, you can see why the power structure is the way it is. It can't be changed because that amount of money, by the way, is ridiculous. I mean, there's no way. Most of that money is wasted. 80% of it is parasites who just take it. Or what we call actors, not parasites, but we know when we budget films now, and you have a $10 million budget, 2 million, 3 million goes to the actors, and everybody else is the rest, So we've set it up in such a way. You mentioned about lofts in New York. When I moved to New York in 1992, 1993, everybody had lofts. Everybody. The whole of downtown New York, Soho, was empty. It was like these rotting old buildings, and people had these huge spaces. I had a huge space. They cost $300 a month because you had to put in your own heating, you had to put in your own electricity. You could just live in this empty palace with amazing ironwork and amazing fretwork on the ceilings, yeah.
Your private lift.
Yeah, and also people in the 60s and 70s, they would buy these properties in Long Island, which is now tens of millions of dollars, and so they'd sit on these properties. And we can't do that now. It's impossible. It's literally impossible. You cannot buy anything anywhere. So how do we kill everybody? And
No. I'm not about violence. I'm not about violence. It's about survival. But this is survival from another side, not from the artist. It's another book. It's another book in a way. But here I was.
You do mention it.
Yeah.
You talk about the cash poor dilettante.
Yeah.
So are we cash poor dilettantes?
Yeah.
Or are we time rich, cash poor, or cash poor, time rich?
Yeah.
We're cash poor, time rich.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
good. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah.
You have advisors and so on. Yeah. No, I think we can ask people if anyone has question to ask, please feel free. No, I can still continue with thinking, introducing the book, but please feel free.
You should read it. It's very fun. It's very clear and very easy to read.
Yeah, no.
Any questions out there?
No, if not,
please do. Just kind of agreeing with so much you've said. It's not really a question. It's just thank you, because I remember meeting you at Art Basel last year, and me saying to you, "Am I a Philistine? This is all crap." It was absolute crap. To the extent that I'm not going this year. I was so disappointed.
no, come. I'll have some presentation. Gallery exit. Please come.
But these $100 million movies are also crap. $100 million is crap.
And it's just, your art piece there is just brilliant with you at the bottom. There's a little piggy being shagged by everyone. So thank you very much.
No, it's a pleasure. Pleasure is mine. Yeah.
To know that we're not all Philistines and that you're, way
that's the thing.
Thank you for introducing that part about the French revolutions. That puts everything into perspective.
It's an interesting thing. We could talk a long time about that.
No, this is the whole chapter. I was actually, yeah. Oh no. We still have time. We still have time. Yeah. No. So yeah, there is a chapter on history of art connected to the how the world was developed and where the arts, how art played part, where transition points were when some new powers came in, destroyed the previous one, and came next and triggered absolute exchange of new isms and killing the previous one and so on. Even recently, yeah, just in New York, we were talking about that actual Pollock generation with Rothko and so on. They were antagonists to the newcomers for the Liechtenstein and the world. They hated each other. So it was like one group came on the barricades and were killing another one, previous one, and then coming during the Andy Warhol alive, Basquiat and everybody else, like this kind of younger generation coming, they were killing the previous ones to establish themselves. So actually, it's become like sort of turning points, all more and more. In some way, also there was turning point introduction of the Dada. People mistook it absolutely. Dada is the concept was born in. I mentioned it. I've been there. I know the person who was director of Cabaret Voltaire in Zurich. We spent a lots of time with him talking like, how did you end up like this? Because nobody needs this cabaret anymore. No money. So. And Lenin was living next to it because I was researched like where he wrote his theses of Russian Revolution. So somehow in one city in Zurich, two revolutionary theses was written, like the Manual for Revolution. One was written by Lenin, and the next year they did revolution in 1917, revolution in St. Petersburg, destroying everything previous. And then Tristan Tzara was writing his thesis for Dada. Connected, absolutely. And absolutely.
Here in the East, nobody is.
I don't know. No, this kind of fusion of it. Yeah, ingredients of.
But it's not. The Chinese are not cultural Marxists. We are. That's what. Yeah, because if everything Marxism is a. Yeah. I mean, Marxism is a Western ideology. It's not from the East. It's from us. So we invented it. We invented it in the 19th century. We established it in the 20th century. We made it the main oppositional discourse of the whole 20th century. And therefore, all the artistic movements have. And now we end up in the sort of, woke culture that we have now in the West. It's just like Maoist struggle sessions. It's like this sort of. We have become culturally Marxist from top to bottom, even unconsciously, without even realizing it, without even thinking about it. You operate in a country like Britain. It's like you talk to young people. I mean, it's extraordinary. They are completely converted. And I live in Asia. I don't find that true here at all. It just doesn't exist. It's not it's capitalist. This is the irony of the paradox of the East and West thing right now, is that the East is capitalist and we are not. We are something else. And this has played into all these things that we're talking about. They're all connected. Because the artistic movements are the result of ideological and economic forces that have always gone hand in hand. And that's why you begin with the French Revolution, because that's where it begins. If I understand you.
No, absolutely. So each revolution bring new spaces, new people who pay and order art. So, and every time there is a shift in ideas and ideological. You could say like French Revolution opened the new spaces, introduced new spaces. The boulevard? The built huge Haussmann Boulevard with apartment blocks. So, yeah.
Haussmann Boulevard is the big boulevards that cut through Paris. when you look at Paris from the air, or even when you're in the street, you see these huge streets with these huge symmetrical buildings on either side, and the whole city is like made into axes. So,
grids, yeah.
so this was devised in the 1870s after the Commune Revolution,
After Commune
so
Revolution.
that the government could put artillery in the streets
Yeah.
and could shoot down these straight lines.
Straight to the barricades and so
And
on.
everyone today goes, so beautiful, you know, blah, blah, blah. That's not the reason.
The reason was different.
And they are beautiful. But the reason was political. It was to sort of...
Absolutely political. But they created these apartments that were bought by middle class bourgeoisie. And of course, they need to hang something on the walls. So the unlike the previous middle class and rich, they had chateaus and so on, so big walls and so on. Here, the walls are much smaller. Frame stayed the same, but the art introduced was, they call it first Japanism, but then rebranded, so well rebranded. It's the best branding campaign I've ever seen in my life, like Impressionism. Because no one will buy Japanism. They were laughing about Japanism. And actually, I mentioned in a book that when Joseph Dubin came to New York, it's like early...
But do you think Impressionism is shit as well?
No, I'm not saying this.
I'm just curious. Because I think
many
I think Degas thought that, didn't he?
No, you see, here is another question. Like, for example, imagine you divide museum on two parts. There are some museums like this, like primitive art and professional art. Yeah. My God, you have to cut all museums and take lots of slides. You cannot substitute a professional art with amateurish art, and the same way the other one. So if you introduce just some kind of groundbreaking concepts, you have to destroy all the
you end up with Duchamp's
foundations.
You have Duchamp's urinal, where people line up for hours to gawp at this absurd joke, which is just a joke, wasn't it?
No, this was a joke. So I started about Zurich. So it was actually stand-up comedy club.
So this is a cabaret in Zurich where the Dada movement began.
So
and a lot of it was just jokes. It was like
joke.
It was like people having fun, you know.
Yeah, introduction of a pissoir in
Duchamp,
in New York.
Yeah.
I introduced it through the.
How much does that sell for now?
No, there is no original one.
There's no original.
Original one was destroyed. A good God, it was photographed. It's great insult. It's a beautiful work. Can you imagine Duchamp and jury selecting the works of artists themselves selecting the works of themselves? But Duchamp put somebody other name and delivered it like work of art. Insult to committee. To the whole committee. Of course, it was rejected later, but 50 years after, it was taken. But it was taken, unfortunately, seriously.
We canonized it now, basically.
Unbelievable. No,
it's
a joke. Yeah, it's a joke. He was laughing all the time at the bad taste.
And so Michelangelo was not a joke, was it?
No, Michelangelo had lots of jokes.
Oh, really? But the Sistine Chapel, is there jokes?
Sistine Chapel.
Are there really
some putti, the angels showing middle fingers. No, middle fingers in Italian is like this. So some putti shows like this because he was angry with and all. Yeah,
I didn't know that. Really, is there a middle finger? There's a middle finger. A middle finger.
I forgot which one jokes and insult he had
but
there.
Not the fingers. God and man.
No.
That's God
No. Putti. I mean angels, little
glad to hear
angels
that,
showing
yeah.
like fingers down.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
no, Michelangelo had in that on the wall the last judgment. Yeah. Please look carefully. Image, you can find it online. The Last Judgment, above the right door, there is one naked man with a snake going around his body, actually quite huge, just on the right side of the altar, and snake biting his privates. So the portrait actually is the guy who's supposed to pay the Michelangelo. And he didn't pay well because he speculated on some blue paint. It was like lapis lazuli, and Michelangelo, after all, discounts with paint, received almost nothing. So he painted his portrait like as this I think it's Protos, some kind of god of something in hell and so on. And this person was actually complaining to the Pope, and Pope said, "No, Michelangelo is the hand of God. I cannot change it." So now we have it. The artists love revenge. Leonardo da Vinci,
Well, they're so bitter, aren't they? I mean,
yeah,
as
so
we can tell.
whenever something wrong, they put And
You can be
for
better.
posterity.
You can be bitter. It's okay if there's a reason to be bitter. You know, it's when you don't have a reason to be bitter. It's annoying. But if
No,
you
if
have a
you're
reason to be
hungry
bitter,
and you have no one to, So
usually money.
survival. You see, what like I
Same
mentioned
thing,
in the
same
book.
thing.
I mentioned in the book. So the successful artist is not becoming rich and wealthy. Successful artist is to have challenge, to have another job, to have another commission, to have another exhibition, and so on. So when armies of artists have no gallery presentation, have no chance to exhibit, then it's become dangerous.
What's your
Then
impression?
Hitler
What's your
comes up.
impression of New York these days? Do you think it's busted? Do you think it's empty now?
No, it was actually kind of funny because we
Yeah.
managed with being.
No, I mean now. I mean now, 2026.
No,
do you-
I don't feel that there is a Trump in charge.
No,
So,
no, sure.
we lived in the area of the university, and our friends were in Long Island, were actually, young and progressives. So, I don't feel that there is kind of creative vibe.
No, I think it's
didn't
gone,
feel-
isn't it?
yeah,
It's
it's
completely gone.
The
Also
galleries
for
are
money-
boring and so on. Yeah.
For money, for reasons of money as well. I mean, I don't know if any of you've been to New York lately. It's so expensive, and
Oh, it's very expensive.
and so boring. It's just sort of like a
few
it's like
museums.
a giant shop. Nothing there really. It's kind of extraordinary. I remember it from the early '90s when it was very violent, but also very fun.
But you see, it's a cycle. In the history of art, is always cycle. There is one wave comes after another. On ruins of something, something is created. By the way, Macau has a chance. Richest place on earth. Hello.
Well, as cities, but New York is rich as a city. So it's like,
the
yeah,
city.
yeah.
I'm talking about per capita.
I mean, what's extraordinary about New York is that per capita GDP in New York is stratospheric. It's unbelievably rich. Almost 190,000. I mean, it's ridiculous.
You
And
see
yet
this-
nobody can do anything because it's $15 for a coffee and you can't, rent is $6,000 a month for
Oh,
nothing.
yeah, absolutely impossible.
So if you're an artist, everybody left. They're all living in Detroit or something. Or
No. It was one situation when somebody from New York was talking. How do you rent a studio in New York? Well, I have a place in New York. It's costs this and that. I tell the don't know. Too expensive. I said that this is too expensive. And we were in a house of collector of my work, so he's expensive. Look at these works around.
Yeah.
So you're supposed to know all these works sold will be barely enough to pay this rent for 1 year. So artists cannot survive. And when you see the key period of times in London, 70s,
same.
in Hong Kong, 80s towards 90s.
I saw this. God, what is that? I think I'll just. So I was reading an interview with Mick Jagger, the Rolling Stones, and they were saying, what was it like being the Rolling Stones? In 1963, he said we were living in a shithole flat in Bayswater, and the rent was free. And there was no bathroom and there was no toilet inside. But that's how the Rolling Stones were born, because they could rehearse in that building, and it didn't cost anything. So the most important thing is to have cheap stuff, cheap spaces,
Absolutely. For
cheap
creatives.
living. Yeah. Without that, you can't do anything. Not in your 20s, anyway.
Yeah. So you came to the same conclusion.
What about Hong Kong, though? I mean, is it the same
New
thing?
York was in 80s. Now, no, impossible. We had a period when we can handle factories.
But are there artists in Hong Kong who struggle with that same problem, or is it just it's impossible?
God,
Yeah.
it's absolutely. I mean, the amount of money I have to pay to survive and so on.
So
One
you're
of the
not cash
reasons
poor, then?
Macau. No, of course I love Macau. But one of the reasons of Macau, living in Macau, it was in 90s. It was comparatively to Hong Kong. It was like paradise for artists. So you earn in Hong Kong and you spend in Macau. You have studio, you have things and so on. So it was survival. And I'm thinking, left Hong Kong because of this. Yeah.
Left London, then New York, then Paris. They're impossible. I lived in all those cities. We can't do it. Are we up at time?
7 minutes. Anyone wants to ask a question? Please.
I have a question. If you look at somebody like Vincent van Gogh, who had no marketplace at his lifetime, is his art therefore the purest there is? And do you imagine his art would have been distorted or changed if he was a bestseller in his own lifetime?
No, yeah. No, first of all, you have to understand who Van Gogh was. Van Gogh, was inspired by the goods coming from Japan. So you have to see it from the perspective of the artist. So what he did, if you see his body of works, he was a talented guy, but you have to understand that he was daltonic. He can't see red and green. So in many cases, those discoveries that you see, like, my God, putting red color on the green grass, it was actually for other artists that watched him painting, because he didn't see the difference. It was proven that he was daltonic. But also, his brush stroke. It's exactly the carving knife of Japanese wood blocks. So they were so much obsessed with Japanese things derived from colonies then, and they were just constantly copying it. And so he developed his style, inspired by cheap Japanese art. So if you know who was Hokusai then, Hokusai was just cheap prints for sailors. So anyone can buy it and put it in a wall and so on. It's like recently it was an auction of one of his views of the Fuji reached, I forgot, big numbers and so on. But at the time it was a cheap art. So this cheap art inspired a big number of artists in France and in Europe in general. So I would say that at that time he was like experimental in terms of like what he had around. Of course, it helped him that he's from the family of art dealers. He was a dealer in London actually for 1 year before sent as the priest to. So I could say that if you take another part of his history, like would he be famous and accepted during his lifetime? Of course, it will be much better for him. He could pay the bills. He doesn't have to ask money from his brother and so on. And he doesn't care about how much it costs now because he's in a paradise or hell. So in many ways, there are suggestions like in the book, to buy, not to buy, to sell, not to sell, so how to see art, and so on. I just try to minimize it. So, for example, in terms of to buy, I specifically point buy living artists, because you could change his career, you could guide him, and so on. Buying from already this, artist in a paradise, it just contribute to, one speculator to another. Or institution, speculative institution. So in some way, your contribution could be better directed to the living artist.
I haven't read the book yet. I really want to, the Manifesto. But so everybody's interpretation of what is a good art piece is different. So without money being a factor, can we have a collective understanding of what a good art piece is?
Of course, it's difficult to say like this is good, this is bad. It depends on medium, it depends on the period and patina, historical patina. For example, what was horrible kitsch in 19th century now is in museums and So I still professionally I react on it on kitsch as a kitsch of like for example Renoir. For me, it was kitsch of 19th century. Somehow. Americans love it. So he got the acceptance, and now he's in museums and so on. But now nobody even question. 5 minutes left. But in a way, the more you see, like in the music, it's difficult to say what's music good, what is bad. So that's the thing. So you have to train your eye. I was trying to explain there. You train yourself in the contrast. The more you expose to good art, the more you train your eyes. And then when in the contrast, when you go to the opposite direction, you already feel the difference. So cheap pictures on a wall or poster or horrible art in a market stall or beautiful work in some gallery. So you will feel it, but it's learning experience and so on. You can also trust advisor, for example. You are exactly the cash rich, time poor. So you ask some advice. Yeah, better find artist, a dealer, or art dealer, or galleries that actually you trust, having a good taste. So, and yeah, about taste is actually I draw the graphs using the Frank Cipolla, one scientist in 70s. He wrote this book, The 5 Rules of Stupidity, Stupid People. I applied it to art, and stupidity in art is actually bad taste. So ignorance, like, okay, not using the hard word, ignorance, bad taste. So you could see it in how people dressed. You could see, like I mentioned, like the things you collect and put on a wall says more about you than your diplomas. So when next time coming to the lawyer's office or dentist and so on, check his things on the wall. So don't trust diplomas, you just see his taste. His taste actually mirrored his IQ, his professionalism, and everything else. So in this case, it's kind of, you know, we're coming to the point of shaming of people with a bad taste. So, and I think it's a good thing, yeah.
So from now on, I'm going to put your paintings on my walls. So everyone know I have good taste.
It's not a promotional campaign, I just tried to help.
I tried to buy something of yours, and I think I got priced out. Or maybe I was too slow. I don't know.
Slow, yeah.
Well, I'll be rich next year. I'll buy something.
No problem. Thank you for coming.
Thank you
I
for
think
coming.
it was a spectacular evening.